Well, let's turn now to Angela Fobbs, the Director of Strategic Initiatives, Democrats Board, to chat on this recent, interview by former VP Harris on running again, that is in 2028. Good to have you this weekend. Angela, how do you think Kamala Harris can build on her experience as a VP to address concerns about economic inequality and social justice? And before you answer that, do you think she's the right candidate to come again for, 2028, seeing that she lost the elections earlier this year?
Well, I think that if she wins the nomination, then she is the right candidate for the Democratic Party. And I think that by 2028, the damage done by Trump might be so great, it's hard to say what experience will be needed or applicable. But I think Harris will need to focus on what she's less on what she's already done and more on how she can adapt quickly. And I'm sure that she can do that. This means building an excellent team of advisors and people who understand the economy, social justice, national security to help her take on the monumental task of rebuilding a country that's been deeply shaken.
I know it's a very big deal for a woman to sit in the White House, just like she said specifically. But besides Kamala Harris, aren't there other, Democrats that you feel can do the job? Like you said, maybe in years to come, maybe 2028, there might be more work on the desk to do. Do you think she's the right candidate, like I asked you previously?
Well, in my personal opinion, she is the right candidate. But there are lots of people in the Democratic Party that will run for president in 2028. And I will support whoever wins the nomination.
So, what specific, policies would Harris need to focus on to regain momentum and unite the Democratic Party? That's a lot's going on, within the Dems and the Repubs. But what policies, and those policies, remember, they were sold, to the American people during the campaign, and a lot of Americans didn't buy into it. So, what policies do you think she would, needs to bench on to see that the Dems do take a hang in 2028?
Well, I think that she would need to focus on rebuilding our government from the ground up, restoring trust, competence, and accountability. And that means putting real constraints on presidential power so no one can abuse the office again. We would need to expand the Supreme Court to restore balance and legitimacy and making government work for ordinary citizens once again. So at the end of the day, unity comes from action, showing that democracy can actually deliver for people.
Now, how do you think Harris's leadership style will differ from or complement that of President Biden's? And do you think Kamala Harris is the, right candidate? I asked you that question already. I mean, a lot of people are asking the same question. But how do you think Harris can appeal to a broader coalition of voters and build a winning campaign?
Well, I think basically to build a broader coalition, we need to get back to organizing basics like talking to people more in town halls, having listening tours, having policies that deliver real benefits, jobs, childcare, small business growth, and see what people are saying and then respond to it. As far as the difference between Biden and Harris, I would say that Biden's style is calm, managerial, sort of the steady hand at the wheel. And I think Harris, with her prosecutorial background, would bring a sharper moral clarity to, as president, to the government, and that she would have a lot of energy for coalition building and working with people. Not that Biden didn't have that, but that would be a vast difference. I think the level of energy and how people would see her in comparison to Biden.
So what role do you see Harris playing in the Democratic Party's efforts to rebuild and regroup after the 2024 election? Plus, what message do you think Harris should run with in 2028, and how can she effectively communicate that to, voters?
Well, I think she can definitely be a bridge connecting the grassroots organizers with national leaders. Whether she runs or not, Harris can use her platform to recruit new candidates, raise money, and train the next generation of campaigners. As far as what message should she run on, I think that's difficult to say at this time, but for sure, it has to be something like justice or democracy that works, that ties fairness to tangible results. And I think the key will be having a message that makes Americans' lives better. Because, like I said, by the time we get to 2028, it's hard to say what state the United States will be in.
I remember, I mean, the campaign she ran on, equality and, women rights and all of that. Well, let's see. I mean, like you said, it's very early to talk about that, but after that interview is important. We discussed it with you, of course. Thank you, Angela Fobbs, for your time today on The World. We had to touch on, Harris's interest come 2028.